Prabhakar, are you there? Prabhakar?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I think the titles, Prabhakar, they shouldn't be talking about PPO labs, in the future.
I changed it to, I had him change to premium vitamins.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah. I would just put vitamins, case
Okay.
vitamins. Um, like something like we can talk about who it is, but just like how does, clean vitamins, a case study, what is a clean vitamin?
Yeah.
Let's just, you know what I mean? So it's a little more attractive. It fills in with our thing. Rudy
Yeah.
just spoke. Remember Rudy, the doctor from California?
Yeah.
He owns. So he's putting together the coffee stuff, Bucker. We don't have any coffee manufacturers for clean, right?
No, we don't have any coffee.
Yeah. I think he was saying most of it is a roasting process.
I see.
Yeah. I because you know how they have light, medium, because it changes the chemistry. What I was wondering, Prabhakar, was if you take a highly roasted coffee versus
Hmm.
the bean, whether it has chemical, it must have very significant chemical differences,
Right, right, because some of them probably are evaporating or denaturing.
Right, right. I mean, they're doing the surface, but they do heat it.
Yeah,
It's sort of what Roger does with the herbs.
right.
It'd be it'd be interesting to do a case study on it.
Hmm.
Wonder if Rudy knows one of the Coffee Growers Association, whether they'd fund it.
Right, right.
Um, Prabhakar, I do really need that the Canine 701. Did you find something for the filling?
The machine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just had to finalize it. I mean, there's like, the one that I found was about 450 or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But they can get expensive also, but I think that was the one that I found. I mean, it does like the automatic, I mean, it stops when the weight is achieved, dispensing.
Hmm.
Should we start? I think there are
Yeah.
about 30 people.
All right, let's start. Let me hop in. You're gonna let him in, and
I
yeah.
did. They're joining.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. This is Prabhakar from Raw and Clean Food Certification. Welcome to the 10th Clean and Raw Food Certification Forum. Today, we'll be doing a case study on a premium vitamins manufacturer, PPO Labs. And we should be starting soon as we still have a lot of people joining.
Prabhakar, we'll start at about 10 after. Is that all right?
Sounds good. All right.
Okay. All right, should we start, Prabhakar?
Yeah.
All right. All right, good morning, everyone. This is Dr.SHIVA Ayyadurai. We have our Clean and Raw Food Certification Forum. This is brought to you by the Movement for Truth, Freedom, Health. Many of you may know the Movement for Truth, Freedom, Health. You can find more information on truthfreedomhealth.com, but we sponsor various educational activities. We have an educational activity we do to basically train people to be health educators. It's called Systems Health Education Program. There's various courses. There's one coming up on Friday, a tutorial. Prabhakar, you may just want to send that out. That's one thing that we do. The other piece that we have is we have an educational series we do for training people, teaching people how to fight for their rights, how to build a movement, and how the responsibility really rests on them. And we do that every Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. That's our Truth Freedom Health open house. So you're all welcome to that. On the science side, on the truth side, the first Tuesdays of a month, we take a major scientific area of health concern, and then we go down to the molecular science of it. And that is done by Cytosolve, and that's done on the first Tuesdays of the month. This past Tuesday, we did one on men's health. Prabhakar, what's the next month? Do you know what it's going to be on Cytosolve?
Next month, I think it's slipping my mind, but I'll have to check.
Okay. I thought it was going to be on diabetes, but and then so it's going to be on diabetes. We have actually identified 21 different types of diabetes. There's not one type of diabetes, and they all require different interventions, and we have to really discuss what that is. So that'll be February, the first Tuesday in February. And then many of you know that our movement believes food is medicine. Years ago, we developed the consensus-based certification program for clean and raw food. And before we go into this presentation, I just want to let everyone know what is a standard. A standard is something that people agree to meets a particular set of criteria for something. So, for example, if we wanted to say, what is the standard for a safe car, right? So the Department of Transportation in the United States or other transportation departments throughout the world come together and they say, okay, safe car has to have 4 wheels. I'm just making this up, by the way. A safe car must be able to go at 80 miles an hour without rattling, right? A safe car must have seat belts and so on. So they define these criteria, and then a car is tested against those criteria. And if it meets those criteria, you can say that's a safe car, for example. Okay. If you look at anything in your home, a toaster, a light bulb, even blinds on a window, ultimately somewhere on those blinds, it'll say tested by or meets some standard. So industries in different areas have created standards. Prabhakar, you may want to bring up ANSI. So in the United States, there's a organization called ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. And this has thousands and thousands of standards across different fields. And the ANSI standards, Prabhakar, maybe you can show some of the different standards that they have, come up in different areas. So, for example, there's standards for pallets. There's standards for entertainment technology. There's standards for meter sockets. There's standards for electrical rigid conduits, you say? There's standards for anything you can think about that's out there. And these standards are typically either done by the government or government entity, says, hey, this is a standard, or they're done by association. So for example, you can see National Electric Manufacturers Association. That is a association of people in the industry who get together and say, hey, we need a standard for electrical conduits. And then they get together, and you can see here are these other standards as Dr. Prabhakar's scrolling down here. Okay. So in the field of clean food, how do you determine what's clean? Now, the government of the United States has created, or the European Union has standards like organic food, okay, is a standard, right? Well, who designed that standard? Well, there's two ways standards can happen: bottoms up, where we, the people, decide it, or top down. The government imposes it. And when the government imposes it, they typically come up with standards that meet the needs of the large corporations who typically funded them getting into political office. So it's highly dubious. So a consensus-based bottoms-up standard, and there are those out there in the different fields, exists, but when they are consensus-based, we the people own that standard. So before we go on, I just want to make sure everyone understands this fundamental difference. If we can go back to the video, Prabhakar, and look at who's here. Just want to make sure everyone understands the concept of a bottoms-up consensus-based standard. Any questions on this? If you have a question, you can click on the reactions button on the bottom. But I just want everyone to understand that this is very, very important to understand that the standard for clean food certification is a bottoms-up standard. We, the people, own this standard. Okay? No one else owns a standard but us. And we have the right to update it, add new elements, new types of foods we want to standardize, all different things that we can do with the standard. But the standard is owned by us, we the people. And what does a standard look like? Well, again, I just want to give a little bit of background. Dr. Prabhakar, can you bring up on the website, if you go to cleanfoodcertified.org, everything we do is transparent. Transparency means there's no backroom meetings. Everything that we decide what goes in the standards is done by us. So all of those meeting notes, how things were decided, everything is documented in the standards section of the website. So on the top, there's a section called standards. And if you scroll through, it's got all the meeting notes that we ever had. You can see all the different revisions are there, any critical updates, all the different appendices, feedback from person X, person Y, everything's up here. So if you go to the top right, the latest draft of the standard is always in a draft mode because we're constantly adding new things. So this is a standard as of September 2nd, 2023. There'll be another update to this based on all the things that occurred in 2024. We typically do the updates in the beginning of the year. So you'll see this updated. So as you scroll down through this thing, you can just scroll down. It's a formal document, which is like a handbook that anyone else can use as a reference guide to decide, oh, is this food or is this supplement or is this product going to meet the standards? So this is a standards document that anyone can independently apply as long as they follow the rules in the standard. It's like an operating guide, okay? Again, all of this was not done by some government organization, but it was done by we the people. This is very, very powerful because this means we the people have a standard for our food that is not controlled by corporations, anyone else. It's controlled by us, okay? Stakeholders, manufacturers, customers, etc. Okay. It has this is looking all the stuff that you cannot have. That's, for example, this looks at all the items that you definitely can't have in the food. It's automatically thrown out. Okay. And then it goes into all the references, everything else. Anyway, thank you. But that's a standards document that we use. Every twice a year, we do a public hearing. And we are right in the middle of now developing standards for grass-fed beef. We're looking at one for eggs. We're looking at one for coffee. But there's a number of new standards coming out in these different verticals, and all of you can be involved. One of the big goals here is to make people in the movement for Truth from Health in association with Clean Food Certified are going to build an alliance so anyone on this call or others can be trained to become food inspectors on the ground. Again, we're not running away from the government. We're not running away from reality. We're going to fully participate, but do it by we the people. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Prabhakar. So that's the background. Any questions on this before we jump into our case study today on us using the standard to look at supplements? Any questions on the consensus-based standard, bottoms-up standard versus a top-down standard? Any questions on that? All right, great. So let's start then.
There is a question from Robert Punko.
Okay, go ahead, Robert. Did you select him, Prabhakar?
Hi.
Go ahead, Robert. So question on this topic. Again, keep it to the question here. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, my question is regards to the goal of rollout of this certification. Is there a timeline for that?
Yeah, the certification, Robert's been around since 2013. Okay, so it has been rolled out in various industries. It's a good question. Yeah, this is a living, breathing certification, and I'll go through the history of it, Robert, if that helps.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Robert, where are you out of, by the way?
Calgary, Alberta.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Robert. So let's jump in. If you can start the slide deck. So we're going to do a case study. Robert, to your question, this is a standard that is active. It's live. We're going to talk about a small business who came to us. They produce vitamins, and they wanted to see if they could be clean or raw certified. And we'll walk through how we went through that process. You can apply the standard to food products, supplements. We just recently started exploring animal products, but we'll give you a quick background on where the standard is housed. What is the standard? Then we'll go through this particular small business PPO's journey, what it costs to get certified. And all of this is, by the way, fully transparent. It's online. And how all of you can be part of this. Next. Next slide. Yeah. So first of this, we do this once a month, every Tuesdays. Anyone benefits from this. Anyone, and by the way, animals benefit from this too, because you can apply this also to animal food too. Everyone, dietary supplement manufacturers, food, farmers, restaurateurs, ingredient suppliers. I was just on the phone with a farmer down in Costa Rica, small farms, and they want to start certifying their category of particular foods, coffee particularly. Next. So there's various companies, Robert, if you're still there, who've been certified. So snack companies. Next, you may see some of these, kombucha, which is a beverage, a fermented beverage. Honey producers. We've talked about this in our last forums. Honey is very difficult. And we had to build an entire subsection of our document for honey because honey, the bees cannot have touched a bee in an area where spraying of pesticides occurred within a 3-mile radius of the hives. Next, but this is a company down in New Zealand. This is a company in India, KSM 66. They produce, Prabhakar, they also produce fulvic acid, right? C.L.E.A.N, which we've certified too, right?
That's a different company.
Oh, that's a different company. Okay. But it's in C.L.E.A.N is fulvic acid. We don't have it here, but some of you may know there's a mineral sort of substance that comes from the earth that we've also certified people take it as food. It's called shilajit or fulvic acid. Next, but KSM 66 makes ashwagandha, which is used in many other their particular brand. Sugar, pure sugar from Brazil. Next, nut butters. This is a U.S. company which creates a nut butter which is raw. They're raw and clean certified. Again, a small business which has now grown quite nicely. Next. Lots of companies. One of the things that's emerging is companies that get the clean label are recognizing that they are getting a significant lift in their revenue, and 85% of consumers now are really starting to read labels. So our movement and the clean label is at the right place at the right time in history. Now, we've been working on this since 2013, and I'll give you that history. Next, 2012, 2013. The certification is housed in legally in our 501c3 nonprofit, which is the International Center for Integrative Systems in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And this center was started in 2007, and it was really to educate people on the power of systems thinking, why we need to think from a systems approach. Next. And this center has various initiatives, Innovation Core, we do research on exposing GMOs, and the Innovation Core group, next, is a group that every year we recognize 8 young people between the age of 14 through 18 who are doing something in the world, physically doing something in the world, or to create a business with some new idea, and they have even 1 or 2 customers. So we want to encourage young people to take an idea to market. It's different than research. Research, you're just sitting in the lab nerding out. But if you take an idea to market, you can apply for the Innovation Core grants at innovationcore.org. And we give $1,000 to a student. We give mentoring, and we support them. So if you have young people, let them go there and apply. We still have funds remaining for 2025 or for this cycle. Next. The cycle goes until July. It's the 2024-2025 awards. Then we do research on GMOs, and we did some of the most fundamental breakthrough research exposing why genetically engineered soy in particular is different than organic soy. Everyone, the Monsantos of the world will tell you that they're the same. Don't worry, move along. But we have found that this is not true. Okay. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you guys. Okay. So what we uncovered, this was our 6th paper in the series. We've done about 7 papers in these in various journals. We uncovered that genetically engineered soy has nearly 200+% less glutathione, which is one of the most important antioxidants in nature for human and plant health, than the organic soy. Next. So here are those numbers. So you can see our analysis, which was done using cytosol, which showed that in silico. Do we have a zoom on this, Prabhakar? Or is this? Does it go? I guess it's okay. You can, if people can see it, that genetically, so there's 4 columns here. The first column is the experiment. In vivo means this was done in a greenhouse. In silico is our predictions using cytosol. Next column is organic, Roundup Ready soy, and the percent change. So what we uncovered was that organic soy has 9.7 units of glutathione. Roundup Ready soy by Monsanto is 3.9, which is a reduction of nearly 249%. Similarly, when we published this, people didn't believe. They said, "Oh, yours is just a mathematical model. This is not real." Well, a group in London, United Kingdom, had found similar, but they grew the soy plant in a greenhouse, but we understood why this occurs. Anyway, so this is one of the research initiatives. This research is now going to be used to support work of our activists in New Zealand, because New Zealand is now going to make legal genetic engineering plants in New Zealand, which is supposedly one of the most pristine parts of the world. So this data provides, or our methodology provides a way to do safety assessment of GMOs. We have a method, right? So anyway, this is one of the work that our center has done, all funded internally by us. Next. The C.L.E.A.N standard is also housed in the center. Next. And I was, to Robert's question, the way this occurred was, this was a slide that we shared with the stakeholder group. 2012, 2013, Whole Foods, before it was bought by Amazon, had a major crisis. They had a kombucha product, 16 different kombucha products under different, kombucha, is some people may know, is a beverage, which is a fermented drink. There were 16 different companies which had 16 different brands which were being sold at Whole Foods. And they were called R.A.W, R-A.W, right? Because it's raw, but no one knew what raw was. It wasn't defined scientifically. And Whole Foods had a problem because there was one of those brands had a very high level of bacteria and people were getting sick. Anyway, and remember, all the kombuchas were called raw. And at that time in 2013, the raw industry of people eating raw foods, some of you, if you were into the raw food movement where you ate salads and you ate, it's minimally processed food, broadly speaking, but there's no definition. That was around a $300 million industry. So it was a major crisis. Whole Foods has to take every kombucha product off the shelves. It was egg in their face, egg in the kombucha, industry's face, and legal issues because no one knows what R.A.W means. I was contacted to see if I could help develop a consensus-based bottoms-up standard for the industry, because surely the government wasn't going to do it, and you really didn't want the government intervening in this because most of the creators of a lot of the kombucha were small companies. So my background, as some of you may know, is in systems. My PhD at MIT is in the department which was formerly known in the 70s, the Department of Food and Nutrition Science. So, and we'd also created Cytosolve. This was in 6 years after I created Cytosolve. So what I did was I called a stakeholders meeting in San Diego, California. About 30 to 40 people showed up. And these were people from the industry, customers, retailers. And we held a meeting like we're doing here, but it was physical. It wasn't, Zoom really hadn't taken off then. So we had a series of 2 days of meetings next. And the goal was, could we determine what is raw? Now, remember, the raw industry has various peoples with, some of them are fanatics about what raw is, and some of them are trying to create new products, all different kinds of people. There is an expo, a trade show that takes place every year in Anaheim, California, called Expo West. 70,000 people show up to it, thousands of manufacturers. So the week after we did, or I think we wanted to come up with a standard that we'd present at Expo West in a public forum. So this was before this. So anyway, we had these stakeholders come and we asked them, what is your definition of raw? And everyone was like the blind men touching the elephant. Everyone had a very different idea of raw. Some people said raw meant that food should not ever be cooked, like salads, sprouted foods. Other people said, no, that's not true. You can heat it up to 108 degrees, because after 108 degrees, foods denature and they die. They're no longer can be processed by your body. That was another theory of raw. Other people said it had to be plant-based, it had to be vegan, so on. Okay, it couldn't be pasteurized. Okay, so it took us about 9 months to get everyone organized, and the contribution that I made to this was I had people think from a systems perspective, and I came up with what was called a multi-decision systems criteria. And so it's not just any one thing. It's because different stakeholders at that meeting had different interests. The retailers were concerned about safety. Think about if you're a retailer and you buy different products, you have to shell out your money to put those products on your shelves. And if one of them has a problem, you have to pull them. That's, in the case of large companies, tens of millions. In the case of the small companies, tens of thousands of dollars. You could shut down companies. So safety became one of the key criteria everyone agreed to. Is this product safe? You know, is the product safe? The other thing that came was minimally processed. So that was the second criteria, that you weren't, quote unquote, cooking the hell out of the food. You know, like imagine taking something and burning it to a crisp. That would clearly be not minimally processed, or ultra processed, right? The other extreme. The next one was that there was a general consensus that if I put this in my mouth, am I going to get nutrients out of it? So you can just look at this. This emerged as a foundational criteria for what we came up with. Again, bottoms up, we the people, not a bunch of government bureaucrats. This, again, I can't overemphasize this, defining what food is. Again, we the people own the standard. Booby fucking Kennedy doesn't own it. Trump doesn't own it. You know, the food industry doesn't own it. The USDA doesn't own it. We own it. So it's very, very important to understand that. The other thing is you can see that these criteria, if you really reflect on traditional food systems, if you go to traditional food systems which has existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, where they tested this, tested that, people died, some foods work, some foods were not good. It ultimately came down to this thing. If you look at most traditional foods, they figure out a way to manage these three, balance these three things. They don't overcook them. If you look at many traditional foods, they're slow cooked, minimally processed, high density of nutrients. But that's what you would call as something you want to put in your mouth. It's safe. It's got lots of nutrients. There's not a lot of vacuum in there, and it's minimally processed. Okay. So these became these three criteria. Out of this, we then defined. So again, you see, we take a systems approach. Then we say, okay, let's now really, and that's our framework, our foundation. Using that scientific foundation, or that consensus-based foundation, which is what the industry, what the people want, let's define what is RAW. So we came up with the acronym to still preserve the word RAW as R.A.W, real, alive, and whole. And this became the framework for certified RAW. And what did this mean? Next. The R in RAW, we assigned to real. And you had to get 50, by the way, go back to Barker, you had to get to the previous slide, you had to get 80 out of 100 points to be RAW certified. Again, this was voted on by the people. Next. And 50 of those points were from R, and as we'll walk through shortly, 20 of those points were from the alive and 30 were from the whole. But the 50 of the points from the R and real could come two ways. It had to be safe and it had to be non-GMO. If it was not safely produced, you got 0. If it was any ingredient in there was genetically engineered, you got 0, right? So you had to be producing it safe and no ingredients could be genetically engineered. That's what we wanted, 50 points. Now, the safety, how do you determine safety? Well, our movement and the standard gave infrastructure to a lot of these small companies. Many of these small companies had no idea about how to make food, manufacture food in an environment that from the ingredients that come into the environment from the time it's transported out, is it done properly? What does properly mean? Properly means how are all the materials handled in what's called the chain of custody, the supply chain, the control points. There are standards. HACCP is one of them, ISO, GMP. So we brought, even though we didn't develop those, but we brought that infrastructure to a lot of these small companies, small manufacturers. So protecting them in many ways, so they did the right thing, because these are very good engineering practices that have been developed over many, many decades. So companies had to have HACCP, ISO, GMP, to make sure that how they were producing the foods, endpoint to endpoint, that you knew where the food came, where the ingredients came, how they were processed, all of that was documented, and it had to be non-GMO. So if they had all that, they got 50 points. Next. But you still have to get at least 30 more. So the alive denoted enzymatic bioactivity, which means, did the product have ingredients which were bioactive? Now, how do you define bioactive? Well, you can calculate it using physical chemistry. And Cytosolve allows us to do that. Cytosolve is a technology, a computational engine that we donated to the center to do this. So, for example, if you look at a product like this that has around 10 plus ingredients. So if you go look at a product, you'll notice that products are made up of ingredients. How do you know that product is bioavailable to your body? I'll give you an extreme. If you saw coal or a rock in it, obviously it's very hard for your body to digest a rock. The bioavailability of a product can be understood per this criteria on looking at the ingredients and identifying the top 3 or 4 molecules, and then deciding their activity based on their denaturing. So in this case, for each of those ingredients, we have identified the molecules. For example, in my conversation with this coffee producer, you may know there's light roast coffee, medium roast, and dark roast. Well, obviously, the different roasting temperatures are going to affect the molecular structure. So similarly here, when you look at kale, kale has these top 4 molecules. Well, is the vitamin C, the lutein, the beta carotene absorbable by your body? Well, if it was cooked at like 1 billion degrees, this is going to be nothing. It's going to be vaporized, right? So for each one of these ingredients per our standard, we say for every ingredient, identify the first top 4 molecules by molecular weight, and then we calculate the denaturing of that molecule, and then we mathematically calculate by the total number of molecular weight how it changes over temperature change. Next. So, for example, kale chips, if you buy them, or chips, the conventional chips are fried or baked. These are dehydrated. So they take a piece of kale, they put miso, bell peppers, right? They mix sunflower seeds, chickpea miso, and then they dry them. Next, in a dehydrator. That dehydrator's temperature go from 100 to 220 degrees, right? 220 is boiling. And then when you aggregate all those ingredients, we can look at the bioavailability based on the ingredient profile, the molecular profile, and we can calculate. So we're looking at 100% bioavailability, and it maintains that with a slight slope up to 120 degrees. You can see that, as Dr. Prabhakar is pointing up in the upper left quadrant there. So as the bioavailability goes down, or as the temperature increases, 120 to about 160 degrees, you notice the bioavailability dropped down to 80%. So people sometimes set their dehydrator temperatures to a higher temperature so they can process more in short time. In fact, these guys were processing their temperature, I believe, at 140. So they're still 80% bioavailable. After 160, you notice there's another dip that goes to 60% bioavailability. So the point being that the bioavailability drops in aggregate over as temperature increases, but it is not dramatic as the raw foodist community had said that after 108 degrees, everything is dead. It's not true. It varies based on the constituent ingredients. If you go back, Prabhakar, I believe they have miso in here. Miso is relatively a raw ingredient, and obviously that denatures much quicker. So if they took out miso, then it wouldn't be, this kale chip. If they took out, you probably would have a flat line at 80% for a little bit longer, okay? So that gives you an idea. It's a mixture. It's a calculation we're doing. Next, pursuant to the standard. Next. So in this case, I'm sorry, Prabhakar, go back. If they're at 140 degrees temperature, 80%, you get 20 points for bioavailability. 80% times 20, you get 16 points. Next. So if you got 50 plus 16 is up to 66. By the way, we use CytoSolve to analyze various types of ingredients, and we figure out combinations of ingredients that can have powerful effects on chemistry in the human body. That's what CytoSolve is. We take data, we analyze it, we understand combinations next, and we're able to do the scientific analysis of identifying the compounds. In this case, there are 2 compounds we identified which lower all different types of inflammation and pain in your body. Next. And we actually created a product of this. And that's called MV25. If you guys are interested, you can go to mv25.life and get it. We're now doing this for brain health, a whole range of different products. But the core technology allows us to do these very, very complex calculations. It's the same technology we use to show how GMO soy has 240% less glutathione than organic soy. Next. The third criteria that you got 30 points for was organic and nutritional density. Organic can have a range, 0 to 20. Some of you may know when people typically get organic, they're looking at the USDA seal. There are people who are picking herbs in the wild, in the deep forests, and they can't get organic certification for that. Does not mean it's bad. Like the honeys, there are some people get the organic certification, but they still have pesticides in it. We've seen this with like maple syrup and honey. So the organic seal, to me, you have to. It's a little bit more nuanced. But we said, okay, if it's organic in weight from 0 to 20, you get 0 to 20 points, and the density of the nutrient density of that substance. Obviously, lettuce has a little bit different nutrient density than collard greens, right? You can just look at them and you can see them from visually, right? One has more water, the other one has less water. One has more chlorophyll, the other one has less chlorophyll. So nutrient density is the other calculation. That's up to 30 points. Next. So when you put all this together, you have to get 80 or above to get the raw score. Okay. Next. So this it developed into, as we shared with you, our standard. And then when we presented this at the public forum 12 years ago, we came across many manufacturers said, you know what, I really like this seal, but I heat my food above 212 degrees. The raw criteria, if you go back to that, one thing we didn't mention, we should probably put that in the slide, Prabhakar, at some point, that the foods cannot be heated over 212, which is a boiling point of water. There are people who actually heat foods over 212. They boil stuff, but they're not, they liked our approach next, and they said, can there be a sister seal? And that became clean, conscious for the safety, living for the organic, ethical for non-GMO, active for bioavailability, nutritious. We apply the same standards, but the food can be heated over 212. Anything raw is obviously clean, but everything clean may not be raw. Next. So this is housed in our center. So we were approached by various vitamin companies, and one of them wanted us to look at their food, PPO Lab, small company, for clean food certification. Next. So they're founded in 2020, this company. They do holistic supplements, and they use synergistic blend of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, polyphenols, and botanical compounds. They work to make their stuff, very concentrated potency, high bioavailability, and high purity. So they needed an independent person really looking at it, and that's what the C.L.E.A.N certification did. Next. So their core values are they want to support health and well-being by creating high-quality supplements that boost resilience. Next. So they have a number of formulas. Prabhakar, do you want to explain some of these? They have their immune formula, a brain formula.
Yeah, so they have three formulas that they're producing. One is the immune formula that assists with the immune function, and the brain formula helps with the memory and cognition. And they have the relief formula, which is basically a synergistic blend that helps with the overall cellular health.
Thank you. And these ingredients are made with various compounds. Next. So the conscious was safely produced. Prabhakar, do you want to explain a little bit details on the safety criteria, what we look for?
So on the safety criteria, our main focus is to understand how the manufacturing is done, as well as how safe are the ingredients. So there are a few ways that we assess that. One is using the certificate of analysis for each of those ingredients to make sure that those ingredients are what they are, and they're not adding anything else. Secondly, while they're manufacturing, we look at procedures that they maintain. So something like HACCP protocols. What are those processes, just to make sure that there is no contamination, heavy metals, microbial, or any other foreign elements, dust or any dirt or something like that. So that's one of the things that we look at. Is the HACCP protocol. The alternate methodologies that we also look at is whether they have GMP certification. So GMP also, good manufacturing practices also make sure that the products are being manufactured in a safe environment. So those are some of the criteria or the evidence or processes that we look for when we assess for the safety criteria. So in PPO Labs case, so they manufacture their products in a safe environment. So they got a highest score of 25. Next is the organic criteria. So organic criteria for supplements is a little bit different than if it was like plant-based, because so if the products have botanicals, we consider them in the organic criteria. Otherwise, we consider the nutritional USP grade of the ingredients like vitamin D or any other minerals and so on. So that goes into live criteria. So their score here range from 8 to 12. For the non-GMO part, so all their ingredients were non-GMO. So they scored a perfect score of 25. On the availability, their score was also perfect because they did not heat or use a process that would reduce the availability of the ingredients. So they scored 20, and their ingredients were highly nutritious and dense in the nutritious. So they scored a perfect score of 10. So ultimately, their score ranged from 88 to 92 for all these three products. So that gave them the eligibility for certified clean. So in summary, we have been certifying PPO Labs since 2023. So it's almost a little over 1.5 years. With a total clean score of 88 to 92, that allows them to be eligible for certified clean. And they met the conscious, active, ethical, and nutritious criteria with the top scores by processing nutrient-dense ingredients in a safe environment with non-GMO ingredients.
Prabhakar, can you show one of their labels so people get an idea?
All right, let me.
Yeah. I just wanted to understand vitamins, as Dr. Prabhakar said, you have the actual compounds, like if you look at magnesium glycinate, and then you look at, ashwagandha, right? So as you can see here, they have these different compounds. They have vitamin C, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, folate, and then you have the mushrooms, right? So you have lion's mane extract. So that one is applied. If you can just leave it up there, Prabhakar, if you can go up to just right. Yeah, if you can. They have the coffee fruit complex, the black pepper, the bacopa extract, right? These things fall into the botanicals. I think that's your point, right, Prabhakar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the broccoli seed extract, right? So these things define, or from these things we apply definitely all the food criteria. But for something like niacin, we're looking at the grade of it, right? How it's produced, because that's done and by the way, many of these vitamins, it's a whole thing that we can go into and we can even expand, are either organically synthesized, or sometimes they're doing bacteria, right, Prabhakar? They use yeast and bacteria.
Recombination.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're taken from food ingredients, and sometimes they're synthesized in the manufacturing facility.
Right. So it's a very interesting area because you're taking a product, an ingredient, and then from that ingredient, you're actually going through a synthesis process. Prabhakar, can you give an example of the synthesis process? For example, something like that. Yeah. Let's take let's take a typical synthesis so people understand synthesis. Let's look at an organic synthesis. What's a classic one that we learn in organic chemistry?
Vitamin A.
So you can take something in nature and you can do a chemical reaction on that product to get a new ingredient. Okay. And it's fascinating because in traditional medicines, in ancient China or India, people would take plants and vegetables and put them through various processes to get high potency extract of a plant, or even create a new thing. It was like the beginnings of what you call pharmaceutical chemistry. Ivermectin is an example, right, Prabhakar? That's synthesized. For example, people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be aware that we as humans have learned how to take stuff in nature and quote unquote cook it to create new compounds. So
aspirin is another example.
You have an example, Prabhakar? Yeah.
Aspirin.
Aspirin. Yeah, aspirin is a classic example. Let's bring that up. So it's salicylic acid, right?
Yeah.
Aspirin, as many of you know, comes from the bark of a tree, or even quinine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's show. Maybe we can show the synthetic reaction. Yeah. Maybe there's a good diagram here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. It's typically a process.
Let's see. Yeah, this is.
I think you get salicylic acid out of it. Okay.
So this is basically from the willow tree bark mixture, and then they add the acetic acid, and then that gives you the acetyl salicylic acid, which is aspirin.
Right.
And this is the chemical reaction for that.
So let's just, if you can take that, Prabhakar, I don't know if people can see that, zoom in on it. But so salicylic acid, if you were to take willow bark, the bark of the willow tree, and you look at the chemical in nature, it's actually has that structure. So you take this salicylic acid, and if you take an organic chemistry class, you memorize equations, and you get pretty good at. Oops, what was that? So the salicylic acid, when you add the acetic anhydride, it removes the hydrogen. And what happens is, if you look at that acetyl salicylic acid, you have the benzene ring, and you have the C triple bond OH. That's called an organic acid. And you're adding to where was the OH, if you can point over there on the left side, Prabhakar, you're adding an OCH3 group, right? And so, and then acetic acid is released. So acetyl salicylic acid is aspirin. That's an example of an organic synthesis of what takes place to produce something. So many of the vitamin products you see are coming from something in nature, the original form. Another, Prabhakar, type in diacetyl morphine. I think it's called diacetyl. It's a diacetyl morphine. Yeah, type in diacetyl morphine. And if you bring that up, yeah, that's the structure of diacetyl morphine. If you just bring up yeah, there you go. Bring that up right there. Yeah, the diacetyl morphine right there, Prabhakar. Yeah, just bring up the structure of diacetyl morphine. Yep, that one's good. Yep. So if people look at diacetyl morphine, guess what that is? That is two morphine molecules, or morphine molecule with two acetyl groups added. That's known as heroin. Okay, it's taking the poppy seed plant and adding two acetyl groups so people could get a name brand out of it. That used to be sold in the Sears catalog for years. And when people were coming back from the war in World War II for chronic pain, they would take diacetyl morphine. It was never seen as something crazy until they added an aura to it, calling it heroin, and then they cranked up the price of it, and then they took it off the Sears catalog. So there's a whole story. I've done a video on this, but just want to let you know that these ingredients that come from nature, some of them are made to think like they're, wow, oh my God, I can't believe that. And others are pretty innocuous, actually. And some of them are quite powerful. So, but ultimately, chemical synthesis. Someone has, Prabhakar, can you mute all? Someone's got their, let me mute all. Someone's got their, Sharon Jones needs to be muted. Okay. Sorry about that, Sharon. You had your mute off. Okay. So anyway, I just want to let people know that when we look at, if you go back to PPO's vitamins, they have botanicals, and then they have their compounds like vitamin C, thiamine, which are organically synthesized. All right, thanks, Prabhakar. So any questions on any of this? Now, what is the investment to get someone clean food certified? So those of you listening.
Robert has raised his hand. Panko.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Sorry, it takes me a while to find this unmute button.
Yep.
So I did have a series of multiple questions that I compiled during your presentation here. One of them was, how can we help to initiate the process across the products that we view in the local markets, grocery stores, farmers markets, etc.? And are there educational materials available, both succinct and detailed, to share with the product manufacturer or distributor regarding clean raw certification?
Yeah, so Robert, great question. So Prabhakar, you can put a Calendly link for Robert. So Robert, what we are now doing is we're training clean food, quote unquote, consultants. Okay. We have a number of people being trained on how to communicate this on the ground. Typically what's happened as of today, it's been just organically growing. We send out emails. People come to, we host one-on-one meetings, Robert. And in those meetings, we walk through a presentation. And then typically people are very excited. They get an immediate proposal within 24 hours based on pricing, what the costing is. And then they go and get certified. So how can you help? I just put a meeting link, Robert, and anyone who's interested, we are now training people. So Robert, you're up in Calgary, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So if you look around, and this, everyone just sort of, if you can sort of mentally close your eyes and think about it in your own neighborhoods. So Robert, you may have a local manufacturers making some food, right? You may, we also want to extend this to, let's say restaurants, okay? Or items on a restaurant menu. If you think about a restaurant, they're a manufacturing company. They're manufacturing a salad. They're manufacturing a sandwich. They're making a soup. So our view is, or a local person. There are many people who are manufacturing local chocolates or something, right? Local bars. So what you can do, Robert, is if you we'll set up a quick 15-minute meeting. We'll show you the materials, Robert, that you can have, and you can become an affiliate of Clean Food. So you can go to those people, communicate, and initially, what we're doing is you can bring them to a meeting with our internal people. We'll run it, be a 20, 30-minute meeting. We'll run it very similar to this, Robert. We'll say, hey, this is what Clean Food is. This is, how many ingredients do you have? And what Dr. Prabhakar is going to show you at those meetings, we can train you also to figure out, how much will this cost you? So Dr. Prabhakar will go into that. We have a little spreadsheet. It's a little calculator. So people say, well, how much is it going to cost me to get Clean Food certified? And for that, we have a little calculator that asks them a set of questions. A, how many products do they have? So that's, let's say they have 3 products, okay? And let's say, where do they manufacture it? Well, I just manufactured in my kitchen. That would be one manufacturing site. Then we'll ask them how many ingredients, unique ingredients, are across those 3 products. So if someone, for example, is making a bar, a health bar, and it's got cashews and honey in one. The next one has, sesame seeds and honey. And the last one has almonds and honey. That's not 6 ingredients. It's actually only 4 ingredients, 4 unique ingredients: the cashews, the honey, the almonds, and the sesame seeds. Does that make sense, Robert? So that you would say 4 ingredients there. And then we asked them, what is the size of your company? Because when we created the standard, we wanted to help the smallest companies as well as the largest. So let's say their company's only doing, 100,000 in revenue a year. So you put in 0.1. And by the way, this calculator is actually online. You can do it. So it's only going to cost them $374 for all 4 products to be certified. So if you divide 374 by 4, that's about $124 per product. And if they just want one certification, it's $299 per all 4 products, or $99. And so if you scroll down below, Dr. Prabhakar will show you that we have a curve. Based on the size of the company, we change the pricing. So if that same company later on grew to become a $10 million company, if we grow back and we put $10 million into 100,000, they'd pay $131,333. Still pretty low. So Robert, I recommended you come to it. And remember, this is a bottoms-up movement. Robert, you can help us, if you're interested, take our materials to help us scale this and create some other materials so you can train the trainer. Does that make sense, Robert?
Yeah, it totally does.
Yeah. And the other thing, Robert, to your question is, we also are creating certifications across different food verticals, like eggs. In fact, there's a farmer in Canada who's helping us develop the standard now for beef, grass-raised beef. Prabhakar, do you want to bring up his data that he shared with us on the nutrient density?
Yeah.
So some very interesting research, and this is one of the criteria. They looked at 300 different farms that were doing grass-fed beef, pasture-raised beef, and 300 conventional cows that were doing grain beef. And this is just preliminary data. Prabhakar, you can just look at the omega-3s and 6s. And we have the mean value data. We have a lot of data that we were just provided, but we're building a standard, Robert, for grass-fed beef. Again, we design it, guys. This is what's so exciting. So we're going to probably, he's going to be the first farmer who's going to do the first draft standard. And then we're going to work with Tony Pierce, who's a sheep farmer in New Zealand, again, in our movement. So if you can look at the data, Prabhakar, bring up that spreadsheet where we saw the density of, it had, like, as you scrolled through, we had all the spreadsheet that we saw. Yeah.
nutrient distribution. This one.
Yeah. There we go. So you can look sort of grain fed. So if you look at protein, grain fed and grass fed, they're pretty similar, 24 and 24 in terms of protein density. If you go down to fats, the grain fed has more fats, 14 versus 12. The other variables look saturated fats, monosaturated, they look all pretty good. Keep going down, I mean, the same, not pretty good. Now you look at omega 3s. The grass fed has 0.2, double the amount of, and omega 6s, the grain fed has more, right? And the theory is you want more omega 3 to 6 ratio. So when we divided the omega 3 of the grain fed to the to the omega 6, we got 0.1 over 0.5, right? Which is roughly 0.2. But when you did it with the grass fed 0.3 over 0.10, you got 0.5. Okay. So nearly 3 times. So that's an example. You look at the EPA, the eicosapentaenoic acid, which is the EPA value. Okay. You can see it's 14 to 31 in terms of EPA levels. And DHA, there's more DHA in the grain fed. So thanks, Prabhakar. And we can go through this. So, Robert, the point is, we as a movement are not waiting for the government to tell us what's right using their whatever their highly adulterated science in big academic institutions, which can be paid off. We can do this. This is what the power of our movement is to everyone listening. Our movement, as I mentioned to you in 2025, is going to take all these solutions which we've had, and we're going to take them out to quote unquote market with our movement, which is all of you. So, Robert, I really appreciate you asking the question. Ask, what can you do? So we need more and more people to jump in and get involved. So Dr. Prabhakar put that Calendly link in there. So recognize that all of you can be part of actually delivering this solution. It's not waiting for a politician to do it or moaning and whining. We have the standard. We can on the ground affect food directly with that label. Robert, does that answer your question?
It does. It actually leads into a second question that I had here. How do we prevent corruption practices experienced in the government bodies that are responsible for similar type certifications, although not to the extent and transparency as C.L.E.A.N, considering the massive marketing value in a product having the clean or raw certification on its packaging? And I can refer to a book written by Shiv Chopra, Corrupt to the Core. He was a federal employee that was responsible for Canadian health.
Yeah, so it's a great question, Robert. I think the key is transparency, Robert. How we do it, you say. When the government does this stuff, if you go to most of their meetings, I was put on. Prabhakar, what was that? One of those USP meetings. Remember that? I was asked by the Army Surgeon General many years ago to be on a government committee, and I actually stepped out of it. I recused myself because I saw the methodology that they were using was dumb. And I said, I'm leaving this meeting. And I said, look, we have a completely different way. And we went and did it independently, and we made it transparent, Robert. So transparency is the key. So every meeting we have, like this entire video is going to be put up online, Robert, all your questions. You follow?
Yeah.
Every meeting we hold for public hearings is put up online, and how we came to the standard, all the arguments that took place, all of that. You won't see that by government bodies, Robert. So that's one of the core things, is to make all of it public. Obviously, if you know other ways, we can do it even better, right? But I think the key thing is the goal is that people participate in the standards. Can you tell me any other food standard that you can come to a meeting like this and talk about it?
None. This is
exactly.
This is unprecedented, and it's a genesis in the right direction.
Yeah, you know, all the appointment in cabinet positions are how much money you gave to one of these leaders, right? You give X amount. I mean, think about Jared Kushner's father gets the appointment to become the ambassador to France. How much money did he give to the Trumps, you know?
It's all patronage appointments.
It's all patronage appointments, right?
Yeah, I did have another question. So
Yeah.
as products are certified, is there a building list of certified products that we can view so that we
Yes, they're up
them to
on the
be
site. Everything's up there.
okay?
And remember, we've done very little marketing of this because um, it's just happened sort of organically on its own, no pun intended. This is why in 2025 we have the framework. We've, you know, being involved in the political world and doing the science and doing the clean food, and it's a lot of stuff, Robert. That's why we need all your guys' help. It's at a point now, I think myself and the movement have done a lot, but we need people power now to take these out. So you guys are in a somewhat of a luxurious position because the heavy lifting in some ways been done. The heavy lifting now is for you guys to take it on the ground. And as I keep saying, the future is offline. So Robert, I would suggest, you're asking great questions. You seem very well organized, very professional. If you could do a follow-up with us, Matt Stoneman and a couple others will join us. Matt's taking this out in the southern part of the United States. And if we could say, okay, what is the, we want to keep it simple. What is the literature that you need? You say, what are the cards? What are the handouts that you need to go out to people, bring them to the meetings, and then we can train you guys how to educate people and how to get them certified. Okay.
Sounds good. From a curiosity aspect question, have you run across products that are labeled organic and haven't met the clean certification?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. We had that with the honey, actually. Okay. So the honey certification, there were products which were being certified as organic, but we found other products which were not organically, couldn't get organic certified because there were wild bees, but they had less pesticide residues in it than the organic certification, Robert. So are you there, Robert?
Yep. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still here.
So that's an example, right?
Okay, that's all I had for questions.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah. So I think that's why the processing is important. Like we would like to do seed oils, for example, because you see the establishment is very deceptive. They suddenly are saying, "Oh, seed oils are bad." Well, it depends on how the seed oils are manufactured. If they're done in dark conditions, in cool conditions, they're one of the most nutritional things you can have. In fact, the fish oils are the way that they're processed in many ways could be far more dangerous that you buy than even the seed oil. So this is why our movement's so important, because we don't get lost in the hype. We're looking at the science and a systems approach. So there you go. So Prabhakar's put up, as we close, what are the things, how can you guys be involved? One of them is donate to the International Center for Integrative Systems. Those of you who don't have time but you have lots of money, donate, because all of this is volunteer funded. We would like to, see. In fact, we have a volunteer here, Valerie, who's helping us out do some packaging right now. So we're very grateful to the fact we have volunteers, but there's more areas we'd like to do, and we can do them faster. Like there's areas in coffee and eggs. It just takes time when you're fully volunteer driven. You're limited by time. But that's one way people can support us. And Dr. Prabhakar, if you can put the link to that, that'd be great, the website. The other is, from a movement perspective, you could go to the next slide, Prabhakar. I mean, you guys may help us come up with new ideas. You can buy small donations, buy the t-shirts, let people know that the clean certification exists. Next, you can get those on the VA Shiva shop or the Integrative Systems shop. If you have ideas and you want to get part of this, Dr. Prabhakar just put up that link. We can do a follow-up meeting. Next, you can become an affiliate and introduce, as Robert was just saying, clean and raw, local manufacturers to become clean certified. And you may even open up new categories for us. And that link is there to do a follow-up meeting. So we're really, in 2025, we're going to not count on things just happening by people randomly calling clean and raw. We're going to look to you guys to go make things happen. Next. So you can become an affiliate of the clean and raw. Next. You can buy Cytosolve products. Cytosolve donates. its proceeds, a significant portion, we donate CytoSolve itself to Clean and Raw. MB25 is a product that was done using CytoSolve. We have a pet product called K9701, again, developed by CytoSolve, and that too is Clean Raw certified. Next. Is that it, Prabhakar?
Donate CytoSolve Science Institute.
Yeah, you can also donate to the Science Institute at vashiva.com. Become a Warrior Scholar. Put a few bucks in. Become a Warrior Scholar. You're actually not, you're really donating it to yourself, because you learn it's not just sufficient you're eating clean food, why we need to build a global movement, that we can create our own movement bottoms up, that while we're fighting the fight on the ground politically, we can start actually delivering these solutions. So go to truthfromhealth.com, become a Warrior Scholar. As we say, get educated or be enslaved, and come to the open houses. So you'll learn more, vashiva.com/orientation. And Matthew, and by the way, Prabhakar, you may want to put that link in, as I'll take Matthew's question. Matthew's asking, would this certification be applicable to feed for farm animals? Yes, Matt, definitely. So that product K9701 is feed for dogs and pets, which has a clean certification, Matt. So yes, we could do that. And if you're interested in helping with that, Matt, you can be part of that. Yep. So for example, I think I've mentioned this. Our dogs, we were feeding them food from a farm that makes pasture raised turkeys, but they were starting to get all these skin stuff all over their face. And then I asked the guy, what do you feed your turkey? And he goes, oh, I feed them soy. I go, what kind of soy? Oh, GMO soy. So 99% or 98% of the soy in the United States is all genetically engineered, and that's what's being fed to farm animals. So yeah, Matt, if you'd like to head that up, set up some time and we can do that. By the way, this Friday we'll have our Systems Health Educator tutorial. It's free. Attend if you want to learn about how you can become a Systems Health Educator. Again, another solution by our movement. All right, it's 12:22. Any other questions before we stop? We'd like to keep these to no more than 90 minutes.
Dr. Shiva, real quickly, it's Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
I
saw your note about some place, right, in Texas?
Yeah, there's several places in mind. It's actually my question because I was there.
Why don't you give people the background so they, yeah.
What's that?
Give people the background so they get.
Yeah, so yesterday I was at the this juice bar, and I was in the parking lot. I was passing out our campaign cards, the Shadow the Swarm cards, and I accidentally left my phone inside there. And one of the ladies came out, said, "Hey, you forgot your phone." And I was passing out the cards, and I gave her a card, and we just started talking about the clean food and certified and the raw, and how I'd really like to coordinate something and help them out. My question is, I don't know if it was on vashiva.com, several of the cards, and I think there's a clean food certified, but one thing I was wondering is if we could get, like on our campaign cards, we have the QR code so that we could hand them the card and say, hey, here's a QR code. You can watch this. Because I think there's a clean food certified raw video as well, short one or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's just one.
Yeah. So that card is, I think what we can do, right, is why don't you set up time even this week? I can show you, or we can co-develop that card together and finish it up and get it out to you. So you can literally take it to her,
Exactly.
this week. And we have the website. So what Ryan is saying is we have a card, a little business card, and you can give it to someone that says Clean Food Certified. When people view that card, there's a QR code they can click on. It'll take them to a video and right away explain what clean is. So if you meet local people, you can explain it. You can give them a card. And Ryan, from that card, we can do a one-on-one meeting. We can train you, Ryan, how to do that meeting. We can give you the slide deck, everything. Okay.
Yep.
So what we want to do is to train people to be clean food consultants. You have a card, you give them to people, they watch a video, then you can follow up and set up a meeting with them. and then we can show you how to do that introductory meeting, Ryan. In fact, how to even put together a proposal, Ryan. We have them all templated in some sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Yep. I'll
Yeah.
set
So
up a meeting.
so everyone here has a homework exercise. Think about some manufacturer in your local neighborhood. It could be like a local product company. It could be a smoothie place, and how you would approach them and bring them to our meeting. And then we're setting up actually an affiliate model. There are people who've expressed interest. Wow, I would like to do this full time. I'd like to become a clean food consultant and inspector. And what's really cool about this is it's not the government inspector, it's us as a movement, Ryan. You know what I'm saying? We go
Yes.
and help people out. We're doing it independently. So we're not waiting. So Ryan, I would do that ASAP,
Yep.
use that link, set up time so we can
Okay.
follow up so we don't lose that momentum.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Let's go to Dean. Oh, Dean is here. Dean, Prabhakar, Dean, can you unmute, please? Go ahead, Dean. Dean,
Yeah.
I think I sent a note to Manju first to set up time. I hope that's being
Yeah, we're
set
going to
up.
meet on Thursday. Thank you so much, and thank you
Yeah.
so much for this. A couple of questions. A big thing in the industry up in Canada is we've always worried what's on the labels in the bottle, because that's where the media catch our health food industry, is they find that what's on the label isn't always in the bottle. With your certification program, if I was a manufacturer and I got the certification, do I have to send every lot number in? Do you teach me how to do the testing? Because you're creating product on a consistent basis. How often do you actually do the testing?
Yeah.
Does
So
that make sense?
yeah. So Dean, pursuant to this is why we need people. You say in the certification standard, there is a provision where we can audit at any time as we choose, Dean. Okay. Oops, did we lose
Perfect.
Dean?
No, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
good.
However, to fulfill that and keep people on their toes, we need more inspectors, you say?
Yes.
So, for example, if we could say, okay, random audit, right? Please send us your COAs and your up-to-date stuff, for this lot number, you say? We can do
Beautiful.
that. We're
Yeah.
also looking at bringing in some very interesting type of instrumentation that can do spectroscopy, and we'll talk more about this. But anyway, Dean, by the way,
Thank you.
Dean has a rich experience, as I understand, Dean, in the health food industry, right?
Yeah, well, I had a health food store in 1975 and lived the lifestyle since 73, so it's been my life. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I was
So
lucky.
there's a lot of talent within people who come to our movement, and we need that expertise now in different areas. But thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Yep. I think that's it. Is that it? We get everyone? Oh, no, we have, that was Dean. All right, everyone, in the interest of time, we love the questions, but to keep things moving, we're going to, okay, Majid, we have 2 minutes. Majid on Varipur. Majid, go ahead.
Hello, doctor. I'm definitely in this program. I just started. I used to own a organic vitamin stores and everything. I know so much about health and nutrition.
Oh, wow. Where are you out of, Majid?
And I learned a lot from you.
Oops. Majid, where are you? Sorry, we lost you. Majid, where are you from? We lost you. What part of the world are you in?
I'm from Iran originally, but I live in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, okay. Do you still run your health food store there?
Not anymore. I'm more into water filtration because
Oh, I see.
I'm with a big movement about what they put in our tap water and, of course, drinking and all that. That's why I put a little note that what are your thoughts about introducing filtered water, because there's so many of them. We have so many scientists.
Yeah, we should do a follow-up on this. The problem with the whole filtration system, I was going to get a filtration system for my house.
Mm-hmm.
It is so confusing.
Yes.
To figure out which one you should go with, and then
Exactly.
what the costs are going to be. It's like it almost felt like it was always like the razor blade.
Exactly.
And my view on this is, we can have a larger meeting on this, is I actually wonder, I pay for water already. We all pay property taxes. Why the fuck do we have to go buy bottled water on top of this?
Exactly.
Make any
You're
sense
right.
to me.
Absolutely.
I get a water bill, which says, "Oh, please be aware your water may have lead in it." And as you know, if you own a house, you don't really own your house. The government owns your house because you're paying property taxes.
Exactly.
So you're paying property taxes, you're paying state income taxes, and you're paying, food taxes, and you're paying a water bill. So why am I paying a water bill if you can't deliver me food, water that's clean? And what is clean water? So the stuff is just. I think our movement has a huge opportunity here, Majid. We should do a follow-up
Sure.
to just talk about this. And given we have the clean label, we can define what good water is as a policy perspective, you see? But there's
Yes.
so many people trying to sell me water filters all day. And this has been going on since 1970.
Yes.
Oh,
And
do this test, buy my water filter, buy this, buy this, buy this. Why don't they do it at the source?
you're right.
So I think it's a great, Majid, to set up time. Don't forget, okay, with that Calendly link.
Sure, will.
Okay, good. But I think you can contribute a lot to this. Thank you. Okay, Omar Weiss. Go ahead, Omar. It's going to have to be the last one. Go ahead, Omar.
Yes, Dr. Shiva, real quick. When you discuss the water, just remember, keep in mind the anode and the water heater. So when you get your hot water, I mean, you're obviously filtering your water coming into your house, but at the point of the water heater going into your house, there's no filter there. And the anode is made of different type of metals, right? You know, aluminum, you have copper,
Yep.
you have titanium, and that's something to consider as well.
Yeah. So I suggest that those of you who are interested in this, let's do a follow-up meeting. But I've had a lot of thoughts about water for many, many years. I think it's too confusing, and you don't know who's trying to scam you with selling what. So thanks. Prabhakar, can we close the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you. In the interest of time, we'll close. If anyone else has anything else, please put it in the chat and we'll follow up. Okay. Yeah. So Emily said maybe we should create a standards to certify the water treatment plants. Emily, that's a brilliant idea. We can do that. Or Emily, we can create what is good water, But yeah, if you think about it, the water plants in your areas are manufacturing plants. The output should be clean water. The problem is, as you know, they may produce water, but then it's the piping that delivers it to your home. So there's a piping in your house, there's a piping under the, but nonetheless, it's always bothered me that I'm paying for water and I'm paying property taxes. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Be well, be the light. Thank you.